folks, the final episode of Knowledge Drop number 5 this week. Episode number 25 of the Ecom Dispensary. Getting traffic but no sales. Here is the solution. So this is probably one of the most common things that people ask about. One of the most common questions I see in the YouTube comments. People email me about all that kind of stuff. Very common when you're first starting out as a beginner. You build a store, you start running some Facebook ads. People come to your website, but no one buys. And you're thinking that, you're thinking your ads might be good. They're getting decent metrics by whatever you think are good metrics. They're meeting those qualifications. You're thinking that your ads are decent, but just no one's buying. No one's buying. So what's the problem? What's the solution? Let's talk about it. I think me and Scotty got some hot takes here. There's a lot of things that it could be. I think that people think that it's like one thing. If it's my product page isn't good enough, I need to go redo my copy, or I don't know, there's something wrong with my checkout process. Like I need to fix my cart. I don't know. People just think it's like one thing. And I think like the big thing that people do that really prevents them from thinking about this in the right way is Scotty just mentioned this right before we started recording this. They get very caught up in the minutia, the little stuff. They start looking at things in a very, I'm not sure exactly how to put it, in a very blind, they got the blinders on. They got the blinders on. They're looking at it in a very blinded way. Thinking like there's one problem here that if they can just figure it out, then they're getting the traffic already. So they just need to convert the sales. And in our experience, that's not usually how it works. There are a few factors though that can cause this. Scotty, what are some of those factors?
I mean, sort of to add on before I go into that, you can look at individual stats, whether that's your conversion rates or something you see in Facebook in the dashboard. You can't look at individual stats in a vacuum. You can't. So people will post the results and be like, oh, what should I do? And I'll tell them, okay, you need to test more ads. Because that's almost always the answer. You need to test more ads, test different content, test different copy. Okay. And they'll come back saying like, oh no, actually my CTR is super high. My ads are good. If your ads are good, then you're profitable. If your ads are not good, or if you're not profitable, then shut the fuck up. Your ads are not good.
Damn.
It's like you can't take that CTR to the bank, and your CTR being high does not say anything about your ads. Your CTR being high might be because Facebook is sending you traffic that is highly likely to click, but not highly likely to buy.
I don't know. I want to interject there. I think that your CTR doesn't tell you nothing.
Tells you absolutely nothing. The only time your CTR tells you something is if you have been running it for a while and you know this ad account, you know the types of results you normally get, and you're comparing it to other ads targeting the same audience in the same ad account. That's the only time your CTR tells you anything. You could launch a new store today on a brand new ad account and have a 5% CTR, and you could have a 0.5% CTR, and the 0.5% CTR might be the better ad. Yeah, it's only comparative that you can read anything out of that data.
Okay. I see what you're saying.
Yeah, because there's too many variables. So, I mean, sticking with the CTR example, you might have a super high CPM. You might have a $60 CPM, 5% CTR, and you still end up with, quick math, 5% CTR and $60 CPM. What is that? Is that $1.20?
$1.20, yeah.
Maybe. $1.20 CPC. There's just too many variables. You might have a super high CTR, but just low quality traffic that doesn't want to buy. If your website conversion rate is low, it could be that your landing page sucks, but it could also be that your offer sucks. And it could also be that, again, it could also be the traffic quality.
So hold on. I think that's a key thing that, I don't know. I don't really see a whole lot of people talking about that. And I don't know if people really think about this, especially like at the beginning stages. There are different qualities of traffic that Facebook will send you. There's traffic that is just going to convert like crazy. That's very high quality traffic. And that usually tends to be more expensive. There's, I guess middle of the road. And then there's low quality traffic, which is just like a bunch of fucking tire kickers from India or something that are never going to buy anything, but they will happily visit your website. there's different qualities of traffic. So like that's kind of a factor. And that's one of the main reasons I think that you can't necessarily draw hard conclusions from some of these numbers when you don't have a lot of context. It's because it could be that the ad is good, it could be that the ad is bad, but it could also be something to do with the quality of traffic. So I wanted to clear that up just so that people kind of understand what that is if they hadn't really heard about that before.
100%. I mean, I could go on about this forever, but I think that the key point to realize first and foremost before we move on is don't make assumptions based on quote unquote based on data if you're just getting started, because you don't want to be in the situation where you're only working on your landing page because you think your ad's good. If you're not profitable, your ad is not good. It just isn't. So at the end of the day, ROAS is if ROAS is unprofitable, you need to improve everything. That is kind of what it comes down to at the end. And it just drives me insane when people ask for advice, you give advice, and they're like, oh, but I think my ad is good. So I think your ad is not good. If your ad were good, you'd be rich and sitting on a beach and not broken complaining in Telegram about your low ROAS. So with that out of the way, we're now going to talk about how to, I guess, troubleshoot the traffic but no sales problem.
Yeah.
I think the most important part of this is critical thinking. And if you're brand new to ecom, this is your first time running a store, it's going to be hard because it comes from experience partly. Because again, there isn't the metric to look at to see if your site is good or not. It's an overall feeling and it's critical thinking. So questions to ask yourself. If people are getting to your site, so if your CPC is below $1, people are getting to your site, but you're not really getting many sales or not anywhere close to the conversion rate you need. One question to ask yourself is, the product you're selling at the price you're selling it at, the way you're presenting it, does it seem like a good deal? Is it a good offer? Would that seem compelling to the person you're marketing to? That is a critical question that you have to keep asking yourself over and over again. Another critical question to ask yourself, I think, is what I'm doing targeted towards a specific type of person and only to that specific type of person? Another question to ask yourself is my marketing congruent? Does the landing page match what someone would expect and what someone is looking for after they click on your ad? Or are you maybe promising get in better shape and gain muscle in the ad, and then your landing page is about fat loss? to make a super simple example. But is it congruent? Does your ad logically lead to your landing page? Those are some questions off the top of my head to ask yourself when evaluating your site. Another thing is, does it look good? Does it look good? Is it clear? Do people know exactly what they're getting? Do they know exactly why they should buy? Is it well formatted? Does it look nice and aesthetically pleasing? Schmitty, you got any other sort of questions that you ask yourself when something's not working? Like, because what you're trying to figure out is, why isn't this working and what can I change, if anything, to make this work?
I mean, I think the biggest thing is kind of like the principle behind what you're saying, which is putting yourself in your customer's shoes. And this is tough. Like this can definitely be tough. But as much as possible, when you're going through, you're looking at everything you're doing, your ads, your website, the entire funnel that someone goes through when they interact with your ads and your website, putting yourself in your customer's shoes and being able to see it from their perspective of, I've just been randomly scrolling through Instagram, looking at photos of my friends or looking at random memes and shit. And then I saw this ad, versus going at it from the mindset of, I own this store, something's wrong with it, I'm trying to figure out what's wrong with it. It's two very different ways of looking at it. And I think the better you are at putting yourself in your customer's shoes and really being able to holistically analyze what that entire process looks like from their perspective, that is like really the most important part.
Yeah. It's critical thinking. And honestly, you have to never decide that what we're doing is good enough, because it never is good enough. It might, even if your ads are doing well, even if your business is profitable, you might be good enough for right now, but you're not good enough for where you want to go. You always have to be improving everything.
Yeah.
Sort of going back to that early stage, you're testing something, you're getting traffic but no sales. First of all, getting traffic is not an accomplishment. You're paying for that traffic. Like, there is nothing that is not like, okay, I'm halfway there. You just paid Facebook for traffic. You haven't had any success yet. First things first, let things run. Don't try to make a decision after 30 minutes. Don't try to make a decision after 24 hours. Let things run for 2 to 3 days before you do anything. Next up is kind of like that critical thinking process, looking at your ads, looking at your video ad or your image ad, looking at your copy, asking yourself all those questions that we talked about before: congruence, offer, design of the website. Just asking yourself all those questions, and really seeing, what I'm always looking for is, I know that everything can be improved, but if it's not working at all, I'm trying to find the glaring flaw, because you don't need a perfect website and a perfect ad to be profitable. You just have to avoid glaring flaws and have a good offer.
I mean, I think that's probably the biggest part of it. Like, I would say, I think like kind of the fundamental problem that people approach this with when they're like, I'm getting traffic but no sales, is they think there's just like one thing they can do and that's going to fix it. And that's like almost always not the case. But if there was one thing, I think usually the biggest thing is the offer. Is the offer good? Like, most people's offers they're just like, okay, so I'm going to sell this product. All right, so this competitor that I am basically copying this from, they're selling it for this price, so I'll sell it for that price too. They don't really think about it at all. And they don't try to put any effort into, okay, how can I make this actually a good deal? Because if you make something actually a good deal, and I think we can kind of even tie this back to the first episode of this week with, you don't have to be good if you make things easier on yourself. If your offer is good, you don't have to be that great at marketing. You really don't. Like, our main brand, our offer is just fucking killer. You can't get that good of a deal from just about anywhere on the product that we're selling. You can't really get as good of a deal as we offer it for, I mean, just about anywhere. And that's a huge reason that it works. So I think you got to definitely look at your offer. Like, that's really the first place that I would start. If I was in this situation, getting traffic but no sales, I'd look at my offer, how I'm presenting it, what the actual deal is, and I would see how I can improve it. And that would probably be the first thing that I would change, the first step that I would take to try to fix it.
Yeah, I think the offer is generally huge. It's generally something people get wrong. I'd say offer number one, and then just try to find, is there a glaring flaw? Is there a glaring flaw in my strategy? Is there a glaring flaw in how I'm approaching this? There's a lot of sort of tools and strategies you can use to try and pinpoint the exact issue, but I've had more success with just critical thinking, analyzing, tearing my own work apart, and trying to find out here. So one thing you can do is you can write down all the potential improvements that you can think of. But then you don't want to make all these little tweaks. You have to make a list of all the potential improvements and then ask yourself, which of these, if any, is really going to move the needle? Is removing the phone number or making the phone number optional on the checkout step really going to move the needle? Probably not.
Probably
is
not.
Changing the main product photo from a really weird product photo, maybe you have the wrong product photo to start with, is changing that going to make a difference? Probably could.
Definitely could.
If you start with a really fucking retarded one. But is changing the orange variant to the black variant being the first product photo, is that going to make a big difference? Probably not. Like, that might be a tweak that makes sense if you're currently showing a variant that doesn't get bought that much. You probably want to show your best-selling variant first as the product photo. That is probably a good change to make, but it's not a game changer. It's not, if you're not profitable, it's not going to make you profitable. It's a small tweak that you should make later, maybe make now, but it's not going to be the big thing. So you just have to ask yourself, what is the big change that's really going to move the needle?
Yeah, I would agree. And then I think you just got to go kind of one by one and test those things. Start with the really big things, offer. I honestly think like the product photos and stuff on your product page are a pretty big thing. The angle that you're advertising it with. I think what it really comes down to though is like on a more like psychological level, when someone sees an ad for something they're interested in, like they see your ad, it's something that they resonates with them to some extent. You're obviously, showing them a targeted ad that you're hoping to some extent they're going to be interested in because they've shown interest in things like that in the past. It's kind of how the Facebook algorithm works. But someone lands on a page, they see the product, they see the price, and I really think the main reason that people don't convert is just because they don't have a compelling reason to buy it right then. It's not a great deal. When people land on our product page, I think they see it and they're like, whoa, that's a really great deal. And that, keeps them on the page, makes them consider buying. Whereas if they just come across it and it looks like a kind of a cool product, maybe they don't really need it. Maybe it's priced, it doesn't really seem like anything that crazy. It's not like a great deal. And they're probably just going to click off, unless they have a strong reason to buy it, then they probably won't. So I think ultimately, like at the very root level, you really got to think about, how can I give someone a strong reason to buy this product or buy whatever product? Like that's really the, I don't know, on like a psychological level. I think it's pretty helpful to think along those lines because I don't know. I think a lot of people think about ecom in like terms of the numbers, and they're looking at like their CTR and their CPC and their blah, 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 all these numbers, all the specific technical stuff. When what's actually happening is someone is seeing your ad. They're a real life person. They have their own life, their own family, their own things going on. They're seeing your ad and then they're deciding what to do based off of how they feel about it. And it's a very human process. It's not just all about the numbers. And I think you got to really keep that in mind. And again, try to put yourself in your customer's shoes as much as possible.
100%. Little super tactical stuff. I don't even know if we should mention them, but it's in our outline, so we will. If you're targeting worldwide and you're testing, you're getting traffic but no sales, just run ads to US only. It doesn't guarantee that you're going to get high quality traffic, but it takes out that international variable. Because when you're just getting started and there's a million things that might be the problem, you don't want to add that variable of, am I targeting the wrong countries? Just US only, eliminate that one variable and one less thing to worry about. Because we know US works. We don't know that advertising to Yemen works. We do know that advertising to the US works.
I think we can probably pretty confidently say that advertising to Yemen is not a great idea.
You never know.
Yeah. Advertising to war-torn countries like Somalia, Yemen. Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think that's the move.
Nunca sabes, amigo.
Is that you never know?
Yeah.
Oh, my Spanish is getting better. And then, yeah, I guess like one other tactical thing that you could do, be careful with this. Be careful with this. This is another thing that I think can really lead people to drawing conclusions based off of things that aren't actually there. But there's apps, and these are pretty cool. I used to mess around with these a lot back in the day. Apps like there's one called Hotjar that is pretty common. There's a couple other ones. Lucky Orange is another one. I've used that in the past. They're apps that basically record all of the website sessions of people visiting your website, and you can literally watch them and see how they interact with your website. So it could be useful if there's like, in some cases there might be a specific thing, like one specific thing. You have a weird product photo, or something is turning people off and they see it and then they just click off. Like that might be able to show you, oh, there's this weird product photo. As soon as people get here, they click off. It could show you something like that, but again, like don't get too deep down that rabbit hole, because those apps are cool and it's honestly crazy. Like it's really entertaining, honestly, to watch people interact with your website. But don't put too much stock into that. I think that can just be good if you just happen to have something very specific and weird, like weirdly wrong with what you're doing on your website. But that's like not super common in my experience.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So
I think that's about it, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think that is about it. Like, I know that a lot of people who are like having this problem this last episode, they're probably like wanting the sexy short one-click answer. Unfortunately, that's just not how this works. Like, it could be a lot of different things. That's the reason that you're getting traffic, but no sales. Ultimately, the only thing that is within your control that you can do is to just continue testing and trying to improve everything that you're doing. It's probably not just your ads are good and your website's bad. It's probably not that your ads are bad, your website's good. There's a bit more nuance that goes into it. And really, it's just about fundamentally improving everything you're doing, making your marketing and your offer really strong so that people actually want to buy it. Like, that's really what it comes down to. And this is something that it takes time. This takes time to get good at. You're not going to be good at it right off the bat, most likely. But the only way you're going to get there is if you just keep iterating, keep testing. And that's really the name of the game. Test more ads, test new angles, test new offers, test new products, just test a bunch of different shit and have, be somewhat smart about it. Don't just be like throwing out tests willy-nilly. Do some critical thinking. Try to put yourself in your customer's shoes. Figure out why they are, try to figure out why they're dropping off, what's causing them to do that, and come up with theories and test them. That's really the only way to do it.
Yep. One more thing, tiny little detail. You mentioned before that like pick one thing at a time and test it. If you're getting no sales, don't pick one thing at a time. Like, make all the improvements and then test again. Like, the time for split testing and making marginal changes is later when you're profitable daily. And you just want to tweak and see if it makes a difference. When you're not getting the results you want at all, you got to make all the changes. And I mean, if you make
Big
some
change.
changes that maybe are slightly worse, it's not going to break the bank because you're already not making bank. There's nothing to break. You don't need to be worried about breaking what ain't working yet.
Yeah. For sure. Just don't go into it thinking that like the change you need to make is like, I don't know, like kind of like Scotty was saying, like changing one sentence in your product description is probably not going to be enough to change your results dramatically. If you want to go from making no sales to making, I mean, because there's different stages, right? I mean, there's making no sales, there's making some sales but not close to profitable, some sales but close to profitable, some making a lot of sales and actually being profitable. There's levels, as Meek Mill says, there's levels to the shit. And when you're at that bottom level and you're not making any sales, you got to make big changes. You got to make big changes. Change the offer, change the market, change the product, change the angle. Don't just mess around with the product description. That's probably not going to be enough.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. All right. Well, folks, that has been this week's knowledge drop. Number 5. Closing it off here with episode number 25. 25 episodes in, man. 25 episodes in. Pretty cool. As always, we got more fire stuff lined up for you next week. I'm actually about to head out. By the time you guys are listening to this, I'm going to be in California. I'm going to be skiing. So I don't know why I mentioned that, but just maybe a little flex. Got to flex on you a little bit. Yep. All right. Cool. But yeah, we'll talk to y'all next week. As always, hit us up in Telegram. Let us know what you thought. And we'll talk soon. Take it easy.
Peace, guys.